Hello everybody, Marla here, and this morning I'm delighted to have with me Sian Storey, who is a civil funeral celebrant in Scotland. Good morning,
Morning.
Sian.
Morning.
Hello, how are you?
Dry. It's absolutely hissing it down outside, and mercifully my husband took the dog for a walk this morning, so Arnie's just lying there all comfortable now, and
Oh,
I'm
sweet.
dry.
Fantastic. Yeah, you don't want a dog that's shaking all the...
No.
No.
Although he's a little pungent, but we'll leave it at that.
Okay, great. Wow.
Wet dog.
So, yeah, thank you for coming today, and yeah, really excited to hear all about being a funeral celebrant. Yeah, and we've had the questions on Facebook, so I've got a few questions from people who are engaging on the Facebook post. So yeah, should we make a start?
Absolutely.
So what was your inspiration to becoming a funeral celebrant, Sian?
Having attended family funerals and realizing it was something I felt I could do, it came from a desire to do death well, really, I suppose you could say. I was an intensive care nurse in the NHS for many years, supporting people at their most vulnerable times in life and death. And I know a lot of people shy away from the finality of these kinds of experiences, but for me, it was an honor and a privilege that can be done for someone so that, you know, you're getting the best for everybody at the end. It was a natural transition for me to become a funeral celebrant. I've also attended some funerals that have absolutely left me wincing, and I wanted to change the perception of the type of ceremonies that are available, because there's so many different ways to do it.
Right. Wow. And how long have you been doing this?
About 18 months now, so still fairly junior, still fairly new at it in many respects, but loving it, absolutely loving it.
Very fantastic. How many have you done so far?
Probably it averages out at the moment about one a month, and obviously it doesn't, you know, you can get some, like number 3 buses, isn't it? You can get a few coming along at the same time, and then it's quiet for a while. But yeah. I wouldn't have my life any other way at the moment.
Oh, fantastic. Lovely. Ah. And what do you see as your role as a funeral celebrant?
The key responsibility is to meet with the family of the deceased, methodically record details of the life, and so that what is written depicts the true character of that person. It has to reflect the personality and the character, because if you're not, you're doing everybody a disservice. So along with the bereaved family and friends, an outline of the ceremony is put together, and it's bespoke. It should be bespoke. Yeah. Properly prepared, it can be delivered with confidence, care, and sensitivity. And the aim of that, of course, is to help support the family and other people that are involved in the life of the person who has died.
Wow. I mean, that's just such a gift, isn't it, to the family? Like, I think, like when both yeah. I mean, when both my parents died, we didn't have anything like that. I mean, they were Catholic, so we had like the priest. So I guess he did know them, but not personally like you would be doing, like the personal tributes, and it's so important, isn't it?
I can honestly say one of the best compliments I ever had was a funeral I did for a work colleague last year. And at the end of the ceremony, I had so many people come up to me and say, "Wow, how long did you know so-and-so?" I said, "I never met her. I never knew her." Oh. And that's the key thing. If you can glean as much information, and we'll look at that in a little while, but it's getting that rapport with people to give them as much information as you can, and having all that information in front of you and turning it into a bespoke ceremony. Not cutting and pasting, not using other things that just don't suit that person. It's crucial that it has to be for that person. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've been to ceremonies in the past, I think probably of aunties and uncles, and yeah, like the person delivering the service, it was like, There was just no heart there. There was just no
emotion.
They clearly didn't know. They clearly didn't know, like my auntie. So it was. It's just such a delicate thing, isn't it? Like somebody's funeral.
And
it's just
huge shame. But what I would encourage people to think about, if they have attended a funeral that in their experiences lacked that warmth and emotion that you felt that could have been given, it's not the end, because you can have a memorial service at any time afterwards to help you do it the way that you want it doing. And of course, with some circumstances in families, one side of the family wants one thing, another side of the family wants something else. Nothing stopping you doing both.
Right.
To make it personal for you, to help you in your grieving. No, there's no statute of limitations, as it were. You can do whatever you want to do, whenever you want to do it.
That's fantastic, isn't it? Because that's not really known, is it? Like none of this is known. No. It's not like something we're prepared for. I mean, is that, do you kind of meet families who kind of turn up and they have no idea what?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
What they're supposed to be doing, or
certificate, what happens after that? And they relinquish all responsibility to somebody else, which is fine if that's what they want to do. But I think it is important that people are aware that they have choices. And that's where having somebody like yourself, for example, comes in, because when you are offered the choice to get things prepared in advance, the world is your oyster, what you want. And, you know, you're going to have a lot of people that say, I'm dead, do what you want, it doesn't matter. And then it's the family, you know, sorting it out afterwards. But for some people, it's really important that they have things right. And then they think they're all prepared, as you know, by putting it down in their will. What's the last thing people look at after somebody's died? It's usually weeks down the line and think, right, we need to get the will looked at, you know, go to the solicitor. Oh dear. They wanted burying, not cremating. Oh dear. So yes, it's communication, crucial, absolutely crucial.
Yeah. Oh wow. Wow, I bet you've got so many stories to tell. So what type of funeral celebrant are you? When I put in my Facebook post, I think I put religious, would you like a religious ceremony, or would you like I can't remember what I put. Humanist. So there is a difference. Can you explain?
Absolutely. There are mainly two types of celebrants. You have your humanist side, and then you have the independent civil funeral celebrant like myself. Right. And I'm absolutely definitely on that side. I'm not a humanist. When I first started looking into training, I initially contacted the Humanist Society in Scotland and went onto their website. And it wasn't until I'd spoken with another humanist celebrant and then had a look at the website, and I thought, no, this is absolutely not for me at all. It is a completely secular organisation. And although I don't do faith per se, I consider myself a spiritual person, and the humanist approach wouldn't have worked for me because, and this is my opinion only, I consider them to be as dogmatic as a religious person would be. For me, they're two sides of the same coin, right, because they're polar opposites in the way. Obviously, religion believes in God. Humanism believes in a whole variety of different things, but definitely secular. Nothing to do with religion whatsoever. Okay. And I think I'm down the middle. People are, it's not that cut and dried in life, I think. People would like choice. And for example, somebody might not have had a faith per se. They might not go to a church, but maybe there's a particular spiritual passage that they like to be read out, or a hymn that they wanted, that's a favourite hymn. Yeah. And humanism wouldn't be able to offer that. And for me, it's about choice. What do the people who are organising this funeral on behalf of their loved one, what do they want within that ceremony? And for me, there's no holds barred, you know, whatever they want, I'm happy to try my best way to provide, which you can't do with either of the others, really.
No,
So,
like you say, it's not black and white, is it, this life? And
no.
yeah, recently I was helping an older gentleman plan his funeral, and he's not religious at all, but he chose a hymn. He chose a beautiful hymn for his service. So yeah, like you say, it's not black and white at all. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And for me, if somebody's had who is atheist and wants a completely secular service, fantastic. They are most definitely the right people to go to, and that for me is what it's all about. It's all about choice. And sadly, I don't think people are given choice when they go to a funeral director. They rely on quite regularly of what the funeral director will suggest who they should have, and it often isn't the right. But like all of us in life, we do things out of habit. You'll go to the same person because well, nobody's complained about them, so we'll keep using them because it's at the top of their list, as it were. And instead of actually looking at the individual family, thinking, actually, I think this person would be better for them. They say they do. I don't often see that translating into reality. Certainly not from the people who have come back and spoken to me later and said, I wished I'd known that you were there or this was available, because we just went with what we were told to, basically.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? Like, when the family's grieving, who makes the best decisions when you're grieving? It's like, even just, I don't know, do you want tea or coffee? Oof.
Exactly.
It's just like
head like mince, really. Yeah,
you're in shock, you're just absolutely devastated, like the whole world's just been like turned upside down, and it's like so you just going to this person and just kind of leaving it up to them, unless the choices have been made beforehand, when there's no real kind of like urgency,
intensity of emotion. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. So
don't get me wrong, Marla, there are some fantastic funeral directors out there. There really are some great people who strive to do the best for every family that they come along that they come into contact with. And you can say the same about celebrants. There are some fantastic celebrants. There's also some I've listened to that I thought, no, I could do this so much better. But it will depend on the family situation. I, by any means, am not perfect for everybody. It is a very individual thing. And I would urge people to say, if they've got a celebrant coming to them that you think, no, I just don't gel with this person, ask for somebody else. How many of us think that you can go to a different funeral director? You don't have to stay to the same person you like and you just think, no, I don't like what they're doing. Go to somebody else. But we don't. We don't.
No, and it's easier sometimes, isn't it? It's easier if it's like, you've got so many decisions to make after somebody's died in a really quick succession of time. And sometimes it's like, oh, let's just do it, So,
and that's why it's so important. Get these things thought about now.
Exactly.
It so much easier later.
Yeah. And funny enough, next week I will be speaking to an independent funeral director. So
Brilliant.
Very interested to see what's available. It's amazing. It's amazing what you can have. So fantastic. So what else have we got? So we had a few questions from people on Facebook, and one of them was from Nikki, and she said, what experience do you have with little children and also children and animals being at funerals?
Luckily for me, I've never had to organise or conduct a child's ceremony, so that's not anything that has in my life at all. I've nursed many, of course, but I've never had to lead their funeral, and I think so. Looking at children and coming to funerals as well, and animals, as you say, I think it's a shame. I mean, I have done some ceremonies where younger children have been there, and if it's handled with sensitivity and care, what an opportunity for them to try and demystify the fear of dying. But it's quite often discouraged. They don't want them there because they think they're protecting or being protected against what? But it's up to the adults in their lives and how they perceive and can accommodate their own feelings with them. So it's a shame. I've got no problems with an animal coming. I've, again, never had the experience, but I know some of my colleagues have. It's been incredibly moving when they've had the horses, for example, coming along ahead of the hearse if they had a horse in their life, or dogs coming in and sitting, and they usually end up sitting right by the coffin. I mean, it's tremendously emotive, but you know, it's an important part of people's lives, and we just discount animals sometimes, and it's just such a shame. So me personally, no, but absolutely I would welcome it with open arms, particularly the animals, I must say.
Oh, lovely. Oh. And like you say, with the children as well, it's kind of part of the process, isn't it? It's like suddenly their parent, or children coming to funerals, should I say, like suddenly, you know, if their parents or their grandparents are in their life every day, and then suddenly they've disappeared, you know, and it's like, and been told, or they've gone to heaven or something. It's like, you know, how do they comprehend that? And I've heard from friends who've had that experience with, you know, with their children, that actually for them going to like the funeral parlour or to the service, they can actually go, that's it's like putting it in kind of a context. And it's helped the children move on. So that's what I've heard from other friends. So
I think in general, and this is a huge generalization, I don't think we do death particularly well in this country a lot of the time. There are some pockets, and there's some funeral directors, some celebrants, some organizations that really help people in a really fantastic way, but a lot of the time I'm saddened by what's available or not available, should I say. And for example, in the middle of the pandemic, there was a really good article about a school teacher teaching. I had to go away and look up how old they were. I think they were P5 or 6. They were about 12 or 13 anyway. And their homework in lockdown, so they're at home with their families around them, presumably. And the homework in lockdown was to organise their own funeral.
Wow.
Now, it was, some of the comments that came back were just unbelievable in some respects. It depends on your view and opinion of this. I took the view, how fantastic, what a life skill to be offered. The same way as opening a bank account, doing anything online, it is a life skill at one time or another that they're going to have to encounter. And when is the right time? When is the right time? Well, they should have been older. Some people were saying, well, why? What a golden opportunity when parents are at home to be able to talk them through these kind of things. Apparently they were having to decide what coffin they wanted, what flowers, who would come, would they have a party, who would come to the wake. And I embraced it. I thought this was excellent. And it was really interesting how many people, it was probably one of the busiest times on my Facebook page. There were some people completely divided. There wasn't a halfway house. What a fantastic idea, a great opportunity to sit with your child and talk through things. Other people, this is just the worst thing. What idiot has decided that this was a good idea in the middle of a pandemic? Everybody's running around frightened, you know. No, I think this is personally, I thought it was a great opportunity, but it polarized people. So we protect our children so much. What are we protecting them from? Something that they're going to be facing on a daily basis, by and large, during the middle of a pandemic. Every time the TV went on, you know, we got a lot of scaremongering.
Absolutely.
So I think it was a golden opportunity, actually, to take things, dissect them, look at it in reality, and actually help them understand what was happening. My personal opinion.
And like I said, I mean, there's such a huge fear of death in society, and that's it. People don't want, in general, do not want to look at it. We know it's all coming, you know, that's guaranteed from the day we're born. We know it's coming, but somehow we think we can beat it, or even if you talk about it, it's kind of like, you know, you're kind of jinxing yourself. That's quite a normal response that I've heard, and people like I've kind of invited to do my program, they're like, oh, it's not the right time yet, or which is fair enough, but it's like I don't think there is not a right time to do it. It's like there never will be. It's like we can talk ourselves out of anything. So but the people that I have met that have got everything in place and kind of gone through that process, it's like it's been really enlivening, life enhancing. It's like
exactly.
So
how many people do you still come across that say, well, if I die? No, not if. When. It is when, as my mother always used to say, death and taxes, the only thing that you can rely on in life. And it's true. So yeah, it's fascinating how people will do everything they can to run away from it, where others will, as you say, take it on board, discuss it, and actually feel liberated afterwards. It's not that you're going to discuss it every day for the rest of your life.
No.
Get it sorted, and that frees you up to properly live your life.
Exactly. So yeah. But yeah, everybody's ready when they're ready. You know, it's like so I think
some people never will be.
People
never will be, and that's okay for them as well.
Exactly. Like when I used to work in the residential homes, and sometimes we talk about it in a session, and you know, some people were like, you know, say, have you done, you know, have you kind of thought about, you know, a funeral or and some people are going, oh yes, I want my ashes scattered so and so, this was our favorite ward, and other people are like, I'm not doing it. So yeah, I mean, and that's fine. But I love that it's just like opening the topic, just getting the conversation started. So it's kind of like normalizing death. So yeah,
it's one of the things I fight against, that there is an increase in medicalization of death. We didn't do this not that long ago. People died at home, and the family took care of them from start to end. And don't get me wrong, there are people who would prefer not to. That's absolutely fine for them as well. But it's being given choice, and a lot of the time people aren't given choice because they're not aware of it. So if we can draw it to people's attention, this is something you can do, they can say, yep, not interested. Wow, I didn't realize. What can I do? And that's what for me, what it's about is helping people understand they have a choice.
Exactly. Oh, okay, lovely. So talking of the pandemic, how was it for you during COVID, like doing the ceremonies?
I only did 2. It's been quiet for me, and interestingly enough, I think there's a lot of, because people are very frightened, where they perhaps would have thought about a celebrant before, they've gone down the religious route, which was interesting, because I also heard there was quite a lot of different priests and vicars not willing to hold ceremonies in the church at all because of everything. So we could, but they wouldn't want to. Anyway, so no, I've only had a couple. One of them I didn't, it was before the masks came in, so it was in a crematoria, so we were everybody socially distant, and that was terribly sad, because you know, normally it would have been a full bustling chapel, and there were 14-15 people there, and then they couldn't do anything afterwards. You know, the daughter of the gentleman who died couldn't even hug her own sister or her own children. So I mean, that's just, it's So again, I always encourage people to think that this doesn't have to be the final word. When we are able to move more clear, you know, easily and hug each other again, consider a memorial service if that's what you want to do, because the gentleman was cremated, and they may wish to scatter the ashes as well. So again, it's not the final thing. You can do other things afterwards to help you and your family grieve. Another one was a funeral, and that was burial rather, and that was outside, mercifully a sunny day. So yeah, again, socially distanced, and they discouraged a lot of people around the gravesite, but it was the way that they wanted it, and that's the key thing.
That's good. It's just been so tough. My heart
well, it
really
depends
goes out for families.
Exactly, and there's been no what's the word I'm looking for? There's no standardization across the country at all. Some people are allowing up to 30 people in, others are saying nobody at all. So it depends where you live. It's a real postcode lottery about what's been available, and that's just made life horrendous for some people, hearing that, you know, at least I could have got my immediate family in, but I live in this area, so we couldn't do anything at all. It's hard, very hard. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I've got friends whose like their family died in like care homes, and they couldn't even be with like their mum when she was dying. I'm just like, oh.
I don't know how anybody actually gets over that, if that's what they want to do. And I think most of us are probably a bit like me. I'm fine as long as I think I've got a choice about something. The minute you tell me I haven't got a choice about anything anymore, that's the one thing I want to do.
Right.
And it becomes an obsession in some ways. Then we all feel that we need to have choice in life and death, and
absolutely,
to have that choice taken away is hard.
Yeah.
Emotionally. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people are going to need a lot of help in the coming months.
Oh. So, looking at the other questions here. Another one from Nikki was, what are your experiences of beautiful and most personally touching funerals that you have been a celebrant for?
I think there's been a lot. I mean, the one that I discussed earlier, that one was the person came to me. I wasn't recommended. They came to me because they felt that the local celebrant they were, you know, suggested was lovely, but she didn't get her mother at all, and her mother was quite a character, and she felt that she wouldn't have done her justice, and that's fair enough. So she asked me to come, but I think when you get something that goes so well from start to finish, you really feel that you've brought something for the family, and it helps them with their grieving process. Absolutely. But I also think when you've got a family who wants to be involved, it really does add another dimension. And the niece, for example, read the most irreverent poem at the funeral. It was hilarious. It was one, I mean, I have recommended it to other people. Most people look at me with abject horror on their face. And if you want to go and have a look for it, it's called Dead is Dead.
Right.
And it's about all the euphemisms people use, and apparently this lady would have loved it.
Okay.
But it came about by the chap who wrote it, whose brother phoned him to say his father had died. But instead of saying, you know, Dad's dead, Dad has expired.
Right.
Like a bus ticket or a and you know, there's been a whole lot of different things. How many expressions do we use? Something that I talked about on my one of my blogs as well. I mean, the most popular ones in the UK are things like kick the bucket, pushing up daisies, and they've actually, if you look at them, have all got some pretty horrendous historical reasons why they've come about. But we use all sorts of euphemisms. We struggle with the word dead.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Even a friend of mine, actually, I'm sure she wouldn't mind me saying that, she said, has died, Sian, sounds better than is dead. So I said, so that's interesting that tense makes a difference.
Yeah.
When you think about it. So yeah, we everybody has their way of coping, but I try very hard not to use euphemisms. You'll rarely hear me use terms like pass away, past. I won't use past. That's far too much of a nurse in me thinking, you know, well, a kidney stone, you passed a kidney stone, past twins, what? And the other one, he's gone. Gone where? You know, walked off the ward. Where did he go? I thought he wasn't well. There are a lot of things. That to me, I can't do it because, again, I think it's probably the nurse in me that comes around, and I will. Please don't think for a minute that I wouldn't be sympathetic or sensitive to people's, when we're talking about things. Of course, I'm not going to make a joke about those kind of things in the situation, and I'm certainly not going to use the vocabulary that they feel uncomfortable with.
Yeah.
But I have been left as a nurse in too many awful situations where a doctor has mangled his way through a conversation to try and say to them that their loved one has died. And they still come out saying, well, what did he say? Is he, you know, when's he coming off the ventilator? Is he all right? No, he's dead. But that's not what the doctor said. I know. All the different ways they struggled. They did used to struggle. I'd like to think that perhaps in times of COVID, where they've had to say a lot more and be more specific, that people haven't been left wondering what on earth is going on, because that's cruel, absolutely cruel.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's part of the doctor's training as well, isn't it? From like the books I've been reading about that.
Should be.
So far, they haven't been kind of taught. You know, they're concentrating on the medical side, keeping people alive, and so. But obviously, there's the other side, the human kind of element of how to communicate and connect with somebody. So yeah, I think that about wraps it up for now, Sian. I mean, we could go on for hours, couldn't we?
Lots to talk about.
Yeah, lovely. But I will finish with one last question that we have from Paul, which was, who presses the button?
If Paul means the button for the lowering of the coffin on the catafalque, absolutely, that's the crematorium manager. But it depends on crematorium to crematorium, because some people will have curtains that come across and then it will be lowered after that. Other people don't want the curtains to be drawn at all. They want to see the coffin right to the very end.
Yeah.
And it just entirely depends on crematoria to crematoria, which is going to be their thing that they do. A lot in my area pull the curtains right over it. It's you have the catafalque, the coffin goes on it, and then a big curtain is pulled over the top, and you never see it after that again. So, you know, some people don't get that opportunity to see the coffin to the very end.
No. I remember with my friend, that's 4 years ago now, and it was the coffin just went down, and that's when it was like, I just let out.
For some people, that's just far too much. Too much. I wouldn't want to see it. For if Rob were to die and we were to organise anything, I wouldn't want to see that. I'd rather that the curtains came across at the very beginning, or just leave the coffin there until I'm out the way, and then do what you want to do. Yeah, but far too emotive to have that happening. Yeah, for me. Yeah. Some people want to kind of symbolic of the final gesture, as it were.
Yeah. So wow, who knew we had so many choices?
Absolutely. Yeah. And if nothing else comes out of this, I encourage people just to ask questions, and they don't. I know people don't. They don't want to. They feel they have to have permission to do things. You don't. If you want to pitch up, as we were talking about earlier in the week, in a Harley Davidson hearse or a JCB, you can do whatever you want to do. Yeah. And don't let anybody tell you that you can't. No. Because you can.
Absolutely. Yeah. Or your own camper van.
Indeed.
That's what my friend had. We put her in. Yeah. We had her in a bongo camper van, which is what she wanted. And
how did you get her out?
Well, we had the pallbearers. We had friends who were the pallbearers.
Right.
Basically, we took the van and we went to the hospital morgue to pick her up. And and the staff put her in the back of her camper van. And it was so lovely. I travelled with her in the
fantastic, fabulous.
And then to the crematorium and taken into the hall, or whatever they call it. Yeah, so it was just so personal. You can really make it so personal, and I'm going to be putting up a blog soon about my experience of that, because that was just so amazing, like a home organised.
And so many people don't realise you can do that, and that is the key. As we said all along, it's choice, whatever's right for you. Yeah. Okay.
It's been so lovely talking with you today, Sian. Thank you so much.
Thoroughly enjoyed it, Marla. Thank
you. Lovely. Well, I hope to see you again soon. We're going to have many more conversations. I can feel that.
Well, if anybody and if anybody has more specific questions at all, of course,
Yes.
we can do another one. Whatever's right for you.
Absolutely. And how do people find you, Sian?
I have a website. I've got an Instagram. What else have I got? You can Google me. There's another one, and I can't think what it is at the top. I've got yeah, I've told you about my website. So yeah, there's plenty of places to find me.
Okay.
Facebook as well, of course. I'm Sian Storey, Civil Funeral Celebrant on Facebook. Just find me. I'm easily found, but I can leave you my details so that you can put up.
Absolutely, I'll post that underneath the video. So yeah, absolute Brilliant. Pleasure. Thank you so much, and yeah, have a lovely day.
Thank you for having me. You too.
Thank you. Care,
Bye. Bye.